Hello, Facebook family. Welcome to another episode of Marriage Mondays with Nick and Trina Brinson. Just want to thank y'all for coming in tonight and just giving us a little bit of your time to hopefully make your marriage better and to do the things that, or hopefully we can give you some stuff that will help your marriage get better. So with that said, we just want to thank you for coming in tonight.
Did you talk about church?
No, that's what you do.
So we represent Crown Kingdom Cultural Center, where of course our pastor is Finest Bush Jr. and Lady Denise Bush. I can't see whose name it is. I'm trying so hard to see. Josephine Green, you first one on tonight. We appreciate you. I think.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But I see two up there. Somebody else is in too. So we appreciate you all joining. So we do, of course, I always say it every week that we're here to give you our resources, to provoke some thinking, to encourage growth, individual growth, which helps your marriage, as well as the two of you growing together intentionally to make your marriage relationship stronger. We believe that is what glorifies God. And when your marriage is a success, it represents Christ well. So that's what we are here for, just to help, for no other reason. And so we encourage you to share, of course, like or love the broadcast, if you will, and share with others. I think that's what you're doing now. Post it to your page or to send it in as a message to others, messenger message to others, just whatever you can do to share the information. Someone might appreciate it. You never know how much you might impact somebody who's in need, just by sharing this bit of encouragement. And tonight we're talking about faith, and applying some practical ways to apply faith to your marriage. And so we really believe we can't miss with this lesson. It can only help. It can only encourage. So that's what we're hoping for, and we ask for your help in spreading the word to others.
All right. And we just looking at the lesson that we prepared tonight. This may not take as long as some of the other lessons because we got a few points we just want to mention tonight and maybe expound on them a little bit like we do most of our topics. And just give you the information so you can do something with it. Now, like we've always claimed, the information we give you is for you if you want it to be. It's all about your application of what we give you. This is not a place you can come to and it's just like, okay, that's it. That's what's going to solve our issues, or that's what is going to help our marriage. It might be multiple things you need. So if you've been coming on through the couple of years we've been on, we may have put together information that may have actually helped you get through some of your issues and just show you that what you're doing may actually be working for your marriage. So whatever we give you, make sure it works for your marriage.
Right.
Because like we've always said, what works for us may not work for you. But the information we give is in abundance because we come on just about every week. Well, something you should be able to get out of it.
And it's based on godly principles. And the principles do work if you choose to make them work, or if you choose to put faith behind it. The principles work. The day-to-day application may not look the same as ours, and that's what we expect. Your marriage really should be customized to you and to your spouse. Your marriage does not have to look like someone else's marriage. The ultimate goal is peace and agreement. Agreement is how you get to that place of peace. So just understand that you're not forced to make your marriage to imitate anyone else's relationship. And so that's really one of the main points that we try to put out there is you have to customize your relationship based upon godly principles so that you have some guidance through those godly principles. But we're not telling you that because we both work that everybody in the household should work. Or because, once the husband might work and the wife might stay at home, we're not telling you that is what's right. And I encourage you not to let anybody tell you and force you that is the one right answer. Because I don't believe you're going to find that in the Word of God. Okay, so understand that the principles are the same. They do not change. But the application of how that looks in your marriage is diverse by design. God is all about are unique, giving us unique gifts, and us all working together for unity. And that's kind of one of the points we're going to make tonight. So we just always want to emphasize that and be clear so that we're not ever taken out of context. And so that we're very clear to you that we want you to think, use the information we give to help you think about your relationship, gives you something to pray towards. It gives you some ideas to spark some ingenuity between you and your spouse for you all to figure out what works best for you. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're here for. We're not here to beat you over the head and make you conform. That's not our job.
No. So the topic tonight is faith in your marriage. How does faith look in your marriage? And we're just going to identify some things. The reason we came up with this topic is because we're still doing a sermon in our church called Liz. And one of the points our pastor talked about yesterday was the faith and how that works by taking off the lid in your marriage or things that might be holding your marriage back. So when we're talking about faith, faith is identified in Hebrews 11:1. And you want to read that? Do you have that? Oh, I got it. Hebrews 11:1. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. When you are operating in faith, that is the thing that God says. That's how you get to me. That's how you believe. That's how everything that operates in the kingdom, it operates in faith. You may not see it. You may not have evidence of it, but you know by operating in faith that the possibilities are there.
Right. Well, faith is the evidence. Faith is the evidence. You were saying the evidence might not be there, and that's true. It might not be what you can see,
right?
But your faith is actually your evidence of that thing that you hope for and that thing that's unseen. And further in that verse that you were reading in Hebrews, I'm going to read the NIV version just because I think it backs up what you just said. That now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what you do not see. Mm-hmm. This is what the ancients were commended for, and we'll talk about. I think we're gonna talk about that. How, God is checking for faith. That's the main thing He's checking for is faith. Mm-hmm. And it even says here in this verse that this is what the ancients were commended for. By faith, we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what is visible. And so us being children of God, we have the privilege, the property of being one of the properties of being a Christian, or one of the benefits of being a child of God, is that we also have the opportunity to talk about and bring into fruition things that we don't readily see available to us. Mm-hmm. And so that's how it goes to taking the lid off. Lids, of course, are those obstacles. And when we have those obstacles and those challenges in our way, our faith is a way for us to invite God into our situation so that we can have the solution, which we may not see right away. We can have that solution to manifest through God. We may not even see how we're going to get from A to Z, but it's the faith that allows us to get from having faith and inviting God in our situation is what allows us to find out how God plans for us to get from A to Z. It's not up to us to create that path, but it's up to us to submit to God so that we can find that route that He's already made available for us.
And that's one of the first points that we need to make is that when you're operating in faith, you're operating in a God-first marriage relationship. That means whatever is going on, wherever we start from, whatever we do, we operate out of God thought first, the God thought pattern first. And when we do that, that allows our faith to come into action. Because when you're operating in God first, or religious, not religion, but a God first attitude, whatever we may be going through, we know we got somewhere to look back to come together. Mm-hmm. So when we operate in our faith, we operate out of God first.
Well, you're on our first point that God is Almighty. I think it really is important to explicitly say that God is Almighty and that God is bigger than both of us, and that when we choose to be married and to stand before God and commit to this marriage relationship, we have to remember that God is all powerful and almighty, and that we are subject to Him. And so, even though we feel like sometimes we have the freedom to kind of talk to our spouse in a kind of way, or to say whatever, or in whatever manner we want to say it, it's easy to feel that way. But ultimately, we have to remember that we are subject to God and to God's ways. And so we have to that has saved me so many times, because I have to remember that ultimately I have to answer to God. I can't just do what I feel like doing, because what I feel like doing don't be holy sometimes. It don't be right. So I have to know that I'm always accountable to God. So I have to take a step back and gather myself. And that was a big lesson for me to learn, is that I have to stop and focus and remember that ultimately I'm accountable to God.
Right.
I can't just do what I feel like doing. I can't just say what I feel like saying. I got to take a minute and process what I'm thinking and I'm feeling through, check in with the Holy Spirit, check in with the Word of God, get myself together, and don't let my emotions lead, but to actually understand that I am subject to God. So I'm going to have to handle this differently than the way I feel like handling it, because it becomes more complicated for me later on if I don't take a second and make a different choice in the moment. And that requires faith.
Yeah, and that's the truth too.
Absolutely.
Because if you open up your mouth without actually checking in with God first, you really could say something that could hurt the relationship
and do more damage than you ever intended to.
Operating out of that carnality, operating out of your flesh, it can really hurt the marriage. And that's why it's very important to like my wife said, to check in with God to make sure what you're doing is right. The best way I can say it is right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, or at a minimum to pick a different action than what feels natural to do. Because, I mean, it's so easy, at least for me. I don't know about everybody else. But it's very easy for me just to say whatever I feel like saying and not worry about the consequences of it or the way it may hit. If I think it's right, or I want to say something based upon how I feel, then that was what I would say or do. But the damage and the cleanup that comes after that, it really can be avoided. And sometimes you do damage that an apology just doesn't clear up right away. So it really is important to have enough faith in God to say, all right, I know how I want to defend myself, but I need you to show me something different in this moment. And sometimes it's a matter of, let me just be quiet and be somewhere else for a minute and get my thoughts together. Sometimes I need to write it down so I can. That's for me. Writing is something that comes easy for me. So sometimes just writing out what I'm thinking, and sometimes getting all the anger out on paper makes it easier for me to articulate it in a way that's going to be with using some communication skills. We talked about communication skills. Right. And so sometimes just writing it out, just raw, helps me to be able to go back and use the appropriate communication skills in order to actually try to deal with the situation. But that takes faith.
It does. And I'm one of those empathetic people. Before I say it, I think about, okay, if I say this to her, how would that make me feel if she said it to me? So that allows me to come up with another way to say things. Because if I don't like it the way I would say it to somebody else, I'm trying not to say it. I'm trying to be as peaceful as I can.
So does that mean you never say anything that you don't have to take back?
Oh, no, I didn't say that. That's why I say I'm an empathetic guy. And I say things. It's been a learning process to do that now.
Okay. You sounded like you had a halo over there.
Oh, no. Okay. I'm a coach. Sometimes when it come up, it come out. But when you think about it, you say it. And I've had to learn not to operate like that in my marriage. Because that's not good. Because you always tell me what?
You ain't my coach.
I ain't your coach.
I don't need no coach.
Nope.
That's not the type of situation we have here.
No. So that's why I became an empathetic listener to myself, and then I would not try to say that to her because it wouldn't, like she said, it didn't do anything for the marriage. The cleanup was rough after that.
Well, yeah, because that type of initiating communication that way would evoke a response from me,
and it just continues.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
It wasn't.
It's not good. So yeah. So
right.
it takes not only faith, but also it also takes faith even to make a change.
Right.
To think that you can learn something different and try to apply it.
Mm-hmm.
That alone takes faith.
It does.
As opposed to just thinking things are hopeless and that it won't change. Well, it takes faith for you to say, all right, God, I got to learn something different. I heard that there is a different way to do it, but I need some patience and some help to learn these new skills and to implement them and to do things differently from the way that I have been doing them.
Right.
That takes faith. So don't shortchange yourself, by you taking a step in a different direction to make your marriage stronger. Mm-hmm. Don't discount the amount of faith that's being required of you to do that.
Yeah, but that just makes your faith stronger and stronger as you practice more and more, because you go from faith to faith to faith in your development. So things get easier in some aspects, but you're continually mature in your marriage and in being a follower of Jesus.
A child of God. And our second point is that Jesus desires unity for your marriage.
That's key.
And that is key.
That's
that right there is something to stand on, as in putting your faith in the fact that God does desire that you have unity in your marriage. He desires that your marriage is a place of peace. He desires that you exemplify love, that you exemplify hope, and that you exemplify faith and peace. Those are things, attributes that God expects to find in us as children of God. He expects us to display those behaviors. And it takes faith to do that, because it's so much easier just to do what your flesh feels like doing. And when you're accustomed to behaving that way, or accustomed to responding to controversy or to conflict from a fleshly standpoint, it absolutely takes faith in order for you to do something different. And so I encourage you to pray about it. If you can recognize, even from this broadcast today, if you recognize that you haven't been able to respond in a way that brings about peace, but that your way of responding brings about more confusion, more frustration, more anger, then you need to pray about, well, God, show me how to respond to my husband so that we can build a stronger way of communicating, and so that we can have more unity and not more division. If when you respond, it escalates things and there's more division, you got to check yourself.
Pull back.
You have to, and that does not mean to roll over.
Right. Pull back and regroup.
But I'm saying it doesn't mean that you give in and roll over. Is what I'm saying. You have to be brave enough to find a solution.
Right.
And being quiet does not necessarily lead to peace. You could be quiet and resentful. You could be quiet and hateful. You could be quiet and calculating. So a lot of times I feel like within the Christian community, and particularly with women, we feel like, oh, you just need to shut up and be quiet. Well, maybe you do need to shut up and be quiet, but being quiet alone is not where it stops. You need to be able to facilitate a positive communication interaction with your spouse.
Yeah, and just like we've talked about before, quiet should come with agreement. Meaning it's been tabled, but we still need to talk about this thing.
Right.
Quiet don't just be, okay, I'm just done with you, I'm not saying anything, and then you just go shut off and
that's
go in your own little hole. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Quiet with agreement.
Yeah.
Meaning that we still got to come back and talk about this, because we're
choosing
got the
to
elephant
take a
in the
break.
room. Yes.
We're choosing to take a break. We're choosing to work on a solution through us dealing with God separately, and then we plan to come back together in unity. So sometimes we just got to let things cool off. I can't read those comments. If you could see them, I think we've had quite a few comments. Yeah. You can see them on your phone right there.
I can see them up there too.
Yeah, but you can see there's a list of them there. Go back and see what we've missed, please.
Nikisha says, learn new skills and learn new ways of doing things different than before. She also says respond in a way that brings about peace, and being quiet is not the answer.
It's not. It's not. And I hate, especially in the South, for women, a lot of time. And I can't say just, not just women in the South, but women in general. Sometimes we're taught, not to say what we're thinking or just be quiet. Don't be a loud, noisy, cantankerous woman. Don't do that. But also don't be a quiet, resentful, disingenuous woman either. You want your voice to be a part of the relationship, because that's what makes the relationship better, is when both people are able to be happy and content within the relationship, because your individual needs are met and you're able to do that in unity.
Right, and that comes with skills too.
Absolutely.
That you don't come out just knowing to do that.
No.
That doesn't happen. You don't go into a marriage knowing how to operate a marriage.
Yeah.
You go into marriage with, like we're talking about tonight, with faith. You hope that this marriage is going to be a great marriage, and then you start to do things, because faith without works is dead. So you got to work on this marriage, this thing called marriage, this unity, this come together of two different people into this oneness that can be great, but it takes work. And when you take work and do what it takes to make your great marriage great, you come out a winner. You're victorious in your marriage. And from the beginning of this year in our church, my pastor's like, win every week. Have more success than failures every week. That means you win every week. In your marriage, have more successes than those things that can be looked at as failures. Therefore, if that happens, you have enough to continue the marriage and strive for the greatness in your marriage.
And it makes me think about the lessons we talked about recently about overthinking. Because I think sometimes when people have more negative than positive, it's because of overthinking. It's because of what are you thinking and meditating on. And so if you're focusing on the negative things that have happened in your marriage instead of coming up with solutions in order for you all to communicate and work together to have some wins, then, because you're going to get more of what you concentrate on. And if you concentrate on the hard parts and on the struggle and not on the solutions for those hard parts and the struggle, where you're going to have more of whatever it is that you focus on. And that's true for anything. You have an option to choose. That's scripture in Philippians, think on these things. The Bible tells you what to think on, things that are praiseworthy. Think on things that are lovely, that are true, that are of good report. You can choose to focus on the good things, and that's what you will get more of. You'll find solutions for those hard parts when you really learn to kind of magnify the positive and look for solutions to deal with the negatives. And a lot of times those solutions for the negatives come out of where you already have strengths.
Right.
You can use those strengths to help build up those areas that are weak. So what's number 4?
Understand that you're not alone. Even though you are going through something and you think that you and your wife or your husband, that you're the only ones going through something. Faith wouldn't be necessary if y'all were the only ones going through it.
Right.
That means everything that can attack your marriage, like we always say, the devil hadn't come up with new tricks. He just making it new to you because you've never been through it. But he understands everything about you and know what can trigger you. So understand that you're not alone in what you're going through. There's always somebody that has been through what you're trying to get through. And it's all about trying to tap into what those people have done to get through it so you can be successful. Like we just talked about. If you learn to do that, you'll win. Your marriage will be great.
Yeah, those answers, the answers are there. A lot of people do feel alone in marriage. It's interesting because people who are single sometimes might feel alone or lonely. Those are two different statuses or ways of being, alone versus lonely. Alone doesn't always mean lonely. But for some people, when they're single, they may experience loneliness and desire for a mate. But getting married is not necessarily a remedy for loneliness. You could be lonely
Say that
and
again.
married.
Say that one more time.
That being married is not a remedy for
It
loneliness.
is not.
It is not.
Mm-mm.
Now, you might physically have someone in your presence, but if you're not really connected and you're not really providing emotional companionship for one another, and I mean, for us, the spiritual part is so much a part of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have somebody that you're really walking in agreement with, you can still feel very lonely inside of a marriage if you're not spending time together, if you're not connected. There's a type of connection that a couple can have, whether married or not. If you're in a relationship with somebody and you kind of there can be a connection that's there.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that gets rid of loneliness.
Right.
Having that type of bond, that type of connection with the person, that and loneliness don't coexist. But when you have a break in that bond, or you have where you've weakened your relationship or your connection has weakened, and you're not really connected, you're not really on the same page, you're not really spending time together, that connection gets weak, and you can absolutely be the loneliest person in the world, and you've got somebody laying right next to you. So it's important to take care of your relationship inside of your marriage, so that you can be connected, and so that you are not living in a state of loneliness as a married person. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay. Good point. All right. And the last point we're going to talk about is make sure that your faith is aligned with God's purpose for your marriage, or the desires that God has, or the desires you have for your marriage, and as long as they line up with the purpose God has for you.
Oh, that's all you wanted to say about that?
That's all I want to say about it.
I mean, I feel like that's a big point. Align your faith with God's desires, because you have to first know what God's desires are in order for you to align your personal desires. Because you can have a desire that's not aligned with God's desire.
That's why you gotta line yours up with His.
You have to know what His are before you can align it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you see what God's desires are, and then you examine what your desires are, and they don't match, okay, somebody got to move.
It better be you.
You a God. So
you better move.
Highly recommend that you get aligned with God's desires, because they're always going to be what's better for your life anyway. So if you have a desire, if you desire for your husband to leave, that's not necessarily aligned with God's desire. I don't know, different situations, may be what they are. But if that's what you're hoping and praying for, and it doesn't align with God's desires for your relationship, you're going to have to use your faith to align your desires with God's desire.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's one of those things that's so individual. You can't really tell people exactly what, though there are some universal principles, some things that God definitely desires, and He makes clear in His scriptures. He desires that we prosper and be in health as our soul prospers. So He does desire that we have soul prosperity. He does desire that we have good health. Those are things that we know are aligned with God's desires. And the Bible is full of information for us to know and understand what God desires for us. But sometimes it's not as clear cut and black and white, as in, does God desire for us to move? Does God desire for us to take this job that's going to change our home situation? Those are the type of, does God desire for us to have another child? Those are the type of things that are not always clear cut from person to person. You can't just open the Bible and know. Which is why it's important for you to spend time with God as an individual, and also spend time with God as a couple, so that you can be aligned with God's purpose, aligned within your marriage, and walking in agreement. But it does take faith. If it was easy and if it was clear, it wouldn't require faith. But things that require faith are going to put you out of your comfort zone.
Yep. Great point.
Well, we need to talk about the game night.
All right. Well, I think that's the end of the lesson for tonight as we move into our game night on the 26th of February.
We're not moving into game night tonight.
No, I'm just talking about we're transitioning from the lesson to talking about
I
game
just
night.
want to be clear.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, game night is going to happen February 26th. It'll be virtual. Like I said, like we talked about last week, we'll send those that want to participate, and we want to get as many participants as we possibly can for this. We'll send out some directions and the type of games that'll be played, and we just want to have everybody that desires to play to come on and play with us. We'll probably be on for about an hour until we 7 to 8. So we'll get enough games together to last that hour.
But this will not be an event that's posted live to everyone. It'll only be open to people who let us know they want to participate. And so we have an email address, which we'll have to put in the not the comments, but in the on the heading. Mm-hmm. When we post this video, we'll add it to the post. But we have an email address. It is spelled out, the lady and the coach. Don't put it the opposite. Some people are saying the coach and the lady. He came up with a title. He put it in that order, the lady and the coach. So we're not going to have a whole discussion about putting the man before the woman. Y'all, that's just the title of the program. And so the lady and the coach at gmail.com. And so we'll put that in the post that we'll put on tonight for this. And if you email us, we will add you to our email. You can just email it with a hand wave, or I want to participate in game night, or you can send us a message. But if you email us, we will add you to our list, and we will send out a Zoom link for everyone who wants to participate. And so we ask that you go ahead and do that as soon as possible, so we know how many people we're dealing with, and that because that'll help us with logistics for the game, so we can view everybody. Because with Zoom, sometimes you can't see everybody on the screen at the same time, and some of the games are timed, as in who gets back first, from doing whatever the challenge is. And so we want to be able to plan out how we can. It'll just help us with our planning for the games that we're going to do. So we want it to be fun. That's really the only goal we have with this, is we want it to be fun. We want couples to enjoy one another. And so 7 o'clock, February 26th, but go ahead and send us your email. We'll be building the email list over these next 2 weeks, and we'll send out the information a couple days before the actual event.
Yep. Yeah, probably send out a couple of days, because if they have questions about the game or how to perform, you can email us that information.
Yeah, and it'll be simple. There may be a few things you'll have to collect ahead of time, like making sure you have, certain items in order to participate in some of the games. But we want people that are going to participate in the games. Don't send me no email if you're not going to participate. You just want to spectate. We want you to participate. Okay? And like I said, it'll be private to the group. Only those who let us know they want to participate. So we encourage you, send us an email. And that's for people that are watching live, as well as for people that are watching the recording. This will also help us to see how many couples might be interested in maybe doing something, some other events live and in person later. We want to see how much participation we get. So if you participate in Marriage Monday, we encourage you to plan to be with us on Saturday, February 26th for this event, so that we can kind of see what numbers we're working with, not just for the game, but possibly for some bigger plans down the line. So we encourage you to join us, and I'll put the email address, TheLadyandTheCoach at gmail.com. I'll put it up so that you can see it. And we appreciate y'all. And we think it's going to be a fun night.
Oh, it's always going to be fun. It's going to be great.
Yeah, we've had some game nights several times through the years, and they have always been a lot of fun. Every time. They're always a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is our first virtual one, though. So we'll see how this works itself out.
Yeah.
I got full faith that it will be great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's different.
It is different.
Because we are very much used to having those game nights in person where we have food and, I mean, it's just a good time.
It is.
It's always a good time. So, but now we can invite more people,
right,
than we have in the past. So it's gonna be good.
All right. With that said, from the lady and the coach, we love y'all. Good night.